morning, everybody. Pastor Randy Fry, Gower Christian Church. 7 minutes with the Savior. The timer has started. Coming to you from Studio 2B in the Gower Christian Church. Massive media complex. We've started the season of Lent in the church here. That's a preparatory season before Easter, and it's a time when we traditionally focus a lot of time on discipleship. We really reflect on following Jesus, what that means in our own lives, learning from Jesus about what it means to follow Him. It's an opportunity for spiritual growth and reflection, and to kind of deepen those practices that help us stay connected to God. One of the popular things that's done during Lent is to fast from something. And that's because a lot of our spiritual practices have a bodily component, whether it's fasting or worship or prayer, serving others. These are all things that are done. They're all spiritual things that often have a bodily component. Prayer. How do we teach kids how to pray? We teach them a prayer position. We close our eyes and then we fold our hands. To prepare to pray, we assume a body position that tells us that we're praying. And I realize that there's a lot of different ways to do that, but it's semi-universal that when we teach kids about prayer, that's kind of the first thing we show them, how to take a prayer position. Fasting, of course, the traditional fast is fasting from food for a certain time period, and that is teaching us getting our sustenance, relying on God. That people don't live by bread alone, but they're sustained by the word and presence of God. So these spiritual practices don't save us, but what they do is they put us in a position to be open to God's presence and power. I was just thinking about Jesus teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, and he would say, when you give, or whenever you pray, or whenever you fast, there was an assumption on Jesus' part that disciples would do these things. It wasn't if you do this or if you do that. It was when you do this, whenever you do this, whenever you do this. There was an expectation on Jesus' part that his followers would undertake spiritual practices as a way of expressing their devotion, as a way of opening themselves up to the power and presence of God, and a sign. It's also yieldedness. It's about yielding our lives, taking up our cross, giving up our own way, and letting God reign in our lives. What God wishes for us, what God tells us, how God tells us to live. And so spiritual practices like fasting, which is like a traditional Lenten choice, opens up. They perform a lot of there's a lot of spiritual value to them. The thing that I noticed about when Jesus was teaching about giving and praying and fasting, He says, don't make a big show out of it. That's what the hypocrites do. That's what the religious leaders of his day did. They made a big show of their piety. He says, do it in secret. Don't make a big deal out of it. But he does say this: your Father in heaven who sees in secret will reward you. God is paying attention, and God honors our efforts to follow Jesus. And I also think that part of the reward that we receive is the work of the Holy Spirit shaping us more and more into a person that honors God. That the part of the reward is the activity of the Spirit within us to empower us and to shape us, to draw us closer to God and closer to Jesus in our character and in our approach to life. So that just occurred to me that part of the reward is a present reward, something that we get when we are willing to make ourselves available to God through spiritual practices. Something to think about as you go forward, and take on a new spiritual practice in the Lenten season, or fast from something, and make it something impactful, something that you will truly miss, something that's meaningful to you. Because I think that's where our Lenten fasting falls down, is we pick something that's not that significant. All right. Just prayer concerns are our biggest one right now, as we're remembering Daryl House's family. Daryl passed away on Friday. His services will be tomorrow morning at 10 here at Gower Christian Church in our fellowship center, and there'll be visitation tonight at 6:30 in the fellowship center. But just remember Daryl's family. They're doing well, but as always, we want God to be present and reveal himself and strengthen. Also praying for Jared Week, who had major surgery a week ago and was doing fine at last report, but recovery process, I'm sure, is going to be extensive. And so just looking at calendar, we do have this funeral. Daryl House, who was a great member of our church community and the Gower community, passed away after a long illness, and his services are tomorrow morning again at 10 o'clock in our fellowship center. Visitation tonight at 6:30. On Sunday, our regular schedule of activities, worship at 10:30, but it's not so regular because we will be celebrating the ordination of Derek Elliott. Derek grew up in a church, son of our Pastor Emeritus Bob Elliott, now serving Abundant Life Church in Lee's Summit as a pastor. But we are celebrating him as our Timothy, and he will be here. Pastor Bob is going to be preaching Sunday. We have some special music planned, and following worship, we'll have a fellowship meal. Again, just celebrating God's call in Derek and his willingness to answer that call and to serve. So I hope that you will make it. It will be live streamed if you're not able to attend, as usual. And then we will have youth group Sunday night at 6 o'clock. And we are now doing all three of our groups every week. So that's JYF, which is 3rd through 5th graders, our middle school and high school group as well, 6 to 7:30. Well, that's it for me. Have a great week. until we meet again online or in person, I bid you peace.